Okay, this is our third segment with this gentleman. He was in court today in Pinellas County Domestic Violence Court. And he has a few words for someone who might be facing this. I'm going to ask you, when did you first hear about this, that this was going on against you, that the petitioner had filed a petition for an injunction?
You had a the civil division of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office that had actually called me to tell me that they had a set of court papers they needed to give me.
They called you by phone?
Called me by phone. I asked him if it was domestic violence related. He stated that he couldn't tell me. I said, well, sir, I don't understand how you can't tell me what this is in relation to, who it's in relation to. I said, because I don't even know at this point if you're an actual deputy with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. Once I had that conversation with him, he said, so basically you're telling me, you're not going to tell me when you're going to be home. I said, sir, I'm a grown adult. I don't answer to you. I don't answer to...
So you had kind of a challenging conversation, or a big contentious conversation with the Pinellas County deputy, as he didn't want to tell you why he was trying to get a hold of you or serve you. You didn't know what it was. Did he tell you he wanted to serve you?
He just said, I have some paperwork, I have a summons. I said, is it a DVI hearing? Has there been a DVI issue? He would not tell me. Fast forward 3 days, I call and speak to his corporal, and his corporal told me, he goes, yeah, this is just a summons for court. He goes, there's no domestic violence injunction in place. He goes, basically it was denied.
Okay, so based on that, you decided to come to court today before you were technically, legally, officially served, correct?
Correct. He basically told me exactly when the court date was, who the person involved was, what time it was. I said, okay, perfect. I know how to play this game. You guys can serve me at court, and then that allows me to move on with an extension and push this thing out even further, which is exactly what happened today. Unfortunately, you can't go on the clerk's website anymore based on a new law that was passed 2-3 years ago and just pull up, based on your first and last name, pull up any sort of domestic violence injunction case against you at all.
You have to go to the clerk physically and
You physically have to go to the clerk, or you have to know that the sheriff's office is trying to serve you. If you do know that the sheriff's office is trying to serve you.
Okay, so you knew you had a hearing today. You came and got served here at the courthouse. They served you, correct?
Correct.
So then what happened?
They served me, and I went in, looked at the evidence. Basically knew it was more like a 7-year-old had written this evidence out, and I knew it was going to be a lack of evidence. I knew there was not enough sufficient evidence. And reading paperwork, there was not enough sufficient evidence because the temporary wasn't even granted. And as the judge stated today, I'll push this out 45 days. This gentleman has a right to have legal counsel.
Are you going to hire a lawyer?
That is something I am potentially going to do. Because
Are you going to, come on, you're going to come back here by yourself. You just wanted to get the extension and say you're going to hire a lawyer, right?
Because I know it'll happen. It'll get dropped. Just as the judge.
So you think it's going to get dropped, so you're not going to pay a lawyer for something that's going to get dropped anyway,
Why
right?
would I pay $2,000 or $3,000 to an attorney?
Okay, so you're going to come back without an attorney, and if it's not dropped on that day, you're going to represent yourself, correct?
Or I will just push it out for another extension.
Do you think the judge will give you a second extension to seek legal counsel?
It's either that or I sit there and plead the fifth on everything. And it's not something I want to do.
Is that an option in civil court, pleading the fifth?
Not sure, but I can tell you this. You don't have to sit there and answer questions. But as the judge stated, he had spoken to her and he said, ma'am, listen, I don't have any legal recourse to force him to testify here today. I cannot make him because he was just served today. She was trying to ask, well, how did he know to be here?
So if you hadn't have got your extension, just in case someone seeing this has a hearing coming up, what would have happened today at the hearing? What are the steps involved? What's the procedure in domestic violence court hearings?
If they would have not shown up, it could have potentially been enforced.
You mean the petitioner?
The petitioner could have easily...
Who's your ex-girlfriend?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She could have easily said, I want this in place. I fear for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have put it in place, even though, in my situation, there was no evidence. It clearly states there was no evidence because within 45 minutes of this being received, Judge Cope signed off on it that there wasn't any evidence. There wasn't enough sufficient evidence. There was evidence, but it was nothing pertaining to a stalking.
Can you tell us the process of a hearing? How does that go?
You basically go in, you have petitioners on one side, respondents on another. You wait till the judge calls your particular case up. One goes to one side, one goes to another, and judge reads off your case numbers, asks you to state your names in court, to which you do, and then at that point you start discussing the situation that brought you there, facts of the case, and what you wish to do.
Okay. So, and then what happens? Does the judge render a decision?
Judge will typically render a decision at that point. He or she will find probable cause, or they will outright dismiss it, or they will postpone it out. In my situation, they postponed it out with no injunction in place. Judge pretty much told her, listen, if there's nothing going on in 30 or 45 days, there's no reason for me to have this in place. So I think with the judge stating that to her saves me from having to go get an attorney and waste money frivolously when I don't need to.
So he might set it out again.
I don't think he's going to set it out again. I think he's going to outright dismiss it next time.
Okay. I understand this is not your first foray into domestic violence court in Florida.
No, I had a ex-girlfriend who was a cop for Largo PD.
An ex-cop filing a
Ex-cop.
petition against you.
An ex-cop.
All right, we're going to end this segment, and we're going to do another segment on the ex-cop and how that worked with having to go against an ex-cop as a respondent in a domestic violence petition for injunction. Thanks for watching, YouTube viewers. Stay tuned.